Welcome to SportX, where we talk things relating to the ever-evolving business of sport and the people that makes things happen in this vibrant industry. I'm Gerard Davids, founder of TalkX TV, where we host SportX as a content channel, and I'm joined by Karen Poole, who is a services director at Openfield. Openfield is an agency that renders services like sponsorship, brand experience, digital marketing agent, and I'm also led to believe dabbling into talent management, etc. Welcome to SportX, Karen, and let's start off by describing to us what is it that you do in the sport business. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Gerard. Thanks for having me. I think where I am right now is I'm much less operational and more focused on management and mentoring of my team at Openfield Marketing. So that's where I find myself now. My background is very much operational and logistics from an event management perspective in sport and in lifestyle.
Okay, great. So within that day-to-day operational challenges and the side of things, what is a typical day look like for Karen?
Well, I think it is very varied. I think the wonderful thing in the industry that we work in is that every day you're doing something different, from film premieres to a father and son camp out at Loftus, to assisting at the Soweto Derby with staffing or activation ideas, to pitching. So it really changes every day. I must just say, Gerard, though, especially talking about sport, I recently had the honor of administering the United Rugby Championship Women's Leadership Academy, which was so informative and inspiring and uplifting. Literally from over 250 entries, there were 50 young women under the age of 26 from all around the world who were selected to be part of the cohort. And I was responsible for setting up the speaker sessions and managing the delegates, and managed to squeeze a little bit of mentoring in there too. The program ran from early March to May, where the girls graduated, and the MVP won an internship at the URC final, which was in South Africa. Shame, poor Genesis. She could have had a trip to to Ireland if things had fallen her way.
Yeah.
And then, each week we hosted a speaker session with brilliant women in sport, including South Africans Motsadisi and Alba Smith. We had Tiffany Jones from Six Nations Rugby, Michaela Snook from F1, Louise Savage from Live Golf. And we even had a guest from Australia talking about the role of government in sport, specifically to the FIFA Women's World Cup. And each topic was so insightful. And what really blew me away was how passionate and informed the delegates were, and what go-getters. I'm telling you, I 100% expect to see these women taking up leadership roles in the future.
That would have been my next question, stunning, Karen, because, we have these skills development interventions, which is needed, but sometimes we do not have an impact pathway going forward. And as you were saying, you're convinced that you'll see some of them in leadership position in the near future or so. So on that point, what is your view on how more women could be upskilled to enter the sports business sector? You've already used words like mentoring and putting together leadership courses and the like.
I'm old school, and I believe it's really important to start from the bottom and learn all aspects of the business of sport. So for many of, especially the younger people, want instant gratification. I still believe that it's not always the most direct route that is going to be the most beneficial, but learning every aspect makes you a much more well-rounded and employable individual. I might have the title of client services director, but believe me, I still lick and stick, I still wrap and pack, I still lug boxes, I still do all of those things, because for me it's important to set a culture of what I'm prepared to do. If I'm prepared to do it, I expect you to be able to do it. But it also just, at the end of the day, doing your licking and sticking or doing a guest registration as it is as important as schmoozing with your partners or jumping in front, in front of a camera to get your hands dirty. So as much as education is important, practical on the ground experience is critical, and it can't always be at the top level. You've got to get in at the bottom level and understand how important that is to making you a well-rounded, employable person.
Yeah. So looking back at your 25 plus career path, what advice would you give to someone, especially a young woman that is looking to enter the sector? They say it looks glamorous from the outside, but in the inside, it's hard graft that is required. Could you share some thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, I think initially from an education perspective, I did a BCom sports management degree back many years ago. I won't tell you what year that was. And although I loved it, I don't know that it was really that beneficial to the career that I ended up finding myself in. And I often hear all candidates actually trying to get into sport because they are passionate about sport. Now, the reality is that very often you become so jaded because you're never going to get to watch the rugby match. You're never going to, do you know what I mean? Because you're always behind the scenes or you're involved. So you're not, I mean, if you're going to catch the highlights on TV, you're lucky. So I think you've got to be prepared to sacrifice that side of things. It's not all glamorous. And as I said, often you're behind the scenes and you don't get to see the big match or that kind of thing. So initially from an education perspective, I think people need to really carefully evaluate what it is they want to do in sport and then consider the best route to get there. Just because a title of a university degree has got sports management in it may not give you the exact things that you need in order to do the skills. For instance, my focus is operations and logistics. That's what I'm really good at. And although I did a BCom sports management, the reality is that it was a lot of little things that didn't actually give me enough skills in anything specific. So I got all my work experience from on the ground, from working in all the different areas of the sport of business. So I've been exposed to PR. I've been exposed. At the end of the day, my skill requires project management, and actually, that's what I should have specialized in, was project management. As much as I love doing the biology and that kind of thing, I was never going to be a biokineticist. That was never what I wanted to do. So I find a lot of people are doing sports degrees that are giving them these skills for something that they don't want to do. They maybe want to be in administration or they want to be in coaching. Yes, then potentially that there's a role for that. But I think you need to really analyze what it is that degree is going to give you to come out with. Don't just look at the title of it and then work down on exactly what it is you're needing to do. So I think that's the biggest advice, is the name of the degree is not necessarily the right one for what you're wanting to do in sport. So you actually need to, if you're looking legally, then you may need to do a law degree in order to become a talent manager, where you're acquiring contractual stuff and things like that. A sports psychologist doesn't get to do a sports degree, things like that. So I think often they don't have enough information at their fingertips to be able to make the right decisions for what they're actually needing to do.
Great. So I've been interviewing a number of senior leadership of women in sports business, and the other day I interviewed a lady who is a marketing communications manager for a major road race in South Africa, and she's a LLB graduate, and from there she went on to become a managing editor. And so it is, recently I saw on LinkedIn that there is this beef out there that there are so many unemployed sports science management graduates, because what they were taught as part of the module or degree is not necessarily what Openfield as an agency would want. And more so what Karen is doing after having done a BCom degree is today we look back and we don't even identify it as a competency. So if our competencies are earlier recognized, perhaps that's the part that we could be nudged into. And so I want to touch on that exactly in terms of where you're coming from. Looking back now at that 25 plus career, and you sit there and you say to yourself, you know what? Actually, now that I'm here, this is the path that I've sort of taken, as opposed to just going for what I was told or what circumstances forced me to do. I want it to resonate with the young people looking at Karen and say, I want to become like her one day. Karen?
So I think the reality of what I'm doing is I should have potentially done a marketing and communications degree. That would have put me in a much better employable situation, because through my mentorships and I mean, and it's interesting because in that Women's Leadership Academy, many of the women that were guest speakers, many of them had never ever interviewed for a position, but got their position through their relationships, through their mentorships. So initially starting out as an intern, proving yourself, and then through those relationships that you build, be moved there or there or there or there. And I had the benefit of that as well. I think the other thing is that it's not necessarily a direct route. You're not going to land your dream job on your first go. And the road is going to be like this. It's going to be windy and curvy. I mean, I only started working in sport when I turned 30. So I studied later in life because I had traveled and done amazing things. So my path everybody's path is different. But I think all your life experiences and the jobs that you don't deem to be quite in sport, but they all start molding you as the person that you need to be to get to the position where you want to be. And I think you need to have a taste, if you have the privilege of it, because it is a privilege, to say, okay, I want to try my hand at that. And I've had staff before where, you know what, you're a great person, but this is not the right position for you. And sometimes people have this picture of, but this may be your passion, but it may not be the right position for you to flourish, whether it be working hours or because I mean, the hours that we put in they're tough. That's just the reality, because you do all the pre-prep, then the event happens, everybody's having fun, and then you got to do all the cleanup. So your day is an extended day. So it's not all the glitz and glamour. Yes, we may get to meet celebrities, but believe me, to this day, I don't think I've got an autograph of any professional person that I've ever worked with, because we're not in the business of getting autographs. We're in the business of creating amazing events for people, you know. But you know, when you find your happy place, and I still think to this day, there's two like crowning moments for me where I know, okay, this is what I knew I wanted to do. This was in, I think it was 2008, Manchester United, Kaizer Chiefs, Absa Stadium, sellout crowd on the field singing the national anthem with Manchester United and Kaizer Chiefs. You know, I'm looking around and thinking, oh my gosh, I was part of the team that put this on. That, you know, like just to go, this I've arrived. And then the other thing, because also my path is changed a lot. So although sport has always been the cornerstone of what I've done, I'm also very much more involved in lifestyle now as well. And I've been privileged to do a number of talent tours for the Walt Disney Company, amongst them Black Panther, and you know, having international Hollywood talent on your carpet, and you all these people. It's like, wow, I do cool stuff. And I'm privileged. And I think that's one thing also you must never forget, is that you're privileged to do this and privileged to have the interactions and things that you do. I might have deviated a little bit. I apologize, Garrett.
No problem. This is a conversation. What comes to mind goes. That's our philosophy on this segment. So did you have mentors, and how do you view their importance? Because I've heard now you've used that word, the notion, mentorship, quite a few times now. So did you have official and unofficial mentors, and what is your view around them?
I am very grateful. I had a mentor initially when I started out in the sports industry, and she was a very well-known person in sport. And I still remember she was a god. Her name was Karen Lightfoot. She's still alive. She's actually living in Australia, working for local government, managing a massive sports complex and pitching constantly for international teams to come and train. But I know that to this day, I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Car, I'm not sure about this. What do you think about this? Still now, as I sit here, and to me, that is something that you pay forward. That's why mentoring and seeing young people flourish in their chosen career, and for me to be a part of that is just so fulfilling, because I want to pay back what Karen gave me. Even to this day, I still have a mentor. So Karen I can speak to, but I also have another friend who is a mentor for me in business and my personal life, who I can pick up the phone to at any point and say, hey, bounce things off me. All of my and for me, I think it's really important to have that, because throughout my career, I still have every one of my interns that have worked for me have gone on to amazing positions, but they always know if they've got a problem, they can pick up the phone at any point and ask for my advice or guidance, or we became friends through that as well. And it is so, so important in the growth and development of any person to have that sounding board, to have that, know that somebody's got your back. And it also, it helps in furthering your career, because if you keep putting in the work under their guidance and tutelage, you are going to be able to get to levels that other people don't have the privilege of. But the bottom line is you've got to be able to, got to be prepared to put in the work, because it's, nobody's going to mentor you if you're not prepared to put in the work. And I think just having that extra little bit of experience and whatnot will set you up for the rest of your life in business and in your personal life.
Yeah. So any person, young or old, would you say that to volunteer for these events and activations within the sports and lifestyle industry would be a good entry point?
Absolutely. Starting off as a promoter, and I mean, especially for a younger person entering, and we actually had one of our Women's Leadership Academy candidates. I met her at Loftus. She was a promoter, and I knew this was coming up, and we got chatting about sports, and she had just graduated, and she was like, oh, I don't know where I'm going in my life. And she ended up applying. She was successful, one of the successful candidates. And she actually did an internship here at Openfield Marketing. It was a short stint. And she was offered a job in a totally different industry. And she really, really wanted to stay with Openfield. And I said to her, this is your journey is not a straight line. You need to go and earn some decent money, see what it's like to be out in the real world, move out of your digs at varsity, and however long that is, when the time is right, you will come back into the sports industry, as you know that you will, because you've had now the exposure and whatnot. But just remember, the path is not a straight line. Sometimes it's a curvy line. And this position that you've got, this opportunity that you've got, is an important part of the development of who you are and the rounding of you as an individual. You may hate it, but you've got to stick it out for at least a year to know what you don't like and the parts of things that you do like, and to learn new skills and new things. So, yeah, I think that's the important part of it, is grab opportunities. Volunteering, I think internships are important. I'm also really cautious, though, because sometimes I think internships they can be viewed as cheap labor, and I'm very ethical in that perspective. I just think, you can't you can't abuse somebody's like long-term internships, as an example. I mean, there's got to be a win-win for both people. An internship is generally a non-paid position. However, people have got transport and food and things like that they need to do. So I think people mustn't be scared of entering into a negotiation for some form of livable wage, even at an internship level. I think that's really important. But I also think that there's nothing wrong with picking up the phone and saying, hey, I know you've got some stuff coming up. I really want a little bit of exposure. Can I just tag along for 2 days? Again, you'll just see levels or different parts of the business that you may not have been exposed to at all. That suddenly was like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Oh, that interests me, or whatever the case is, just to expand your understanding of what is available in sport, because everybody just thinks of the glitz and the glamour, the Motsadisi's in front of the camera, which, believe me, is not a glamorous job in any stretch of the imagination, because of the, there's so much work that goes on in the background that people don't even understand. And, just even being on set or not even doing anything, just looking and learning is invaluable for anybody to get a much better idea of what is available and how many parts there are to a production that they could be a part of, where they may not be the in front of the camera person, but there are so many opportunities in the background that contribute to that overall picture.
Great. So that's what we call career awareness on a different level. You see, most people want to go to an organized event about career choices, but I believe to volunteer is actually the best level to be exposed to career awareness, for that matter. So what are the biggest strengths you see emerging in your industry in lieu of tech, AI, and the like?
So obviously AI is a biggie. We've started at Openfield, we have been using AI actually for the last year or so, more on the creative side, around design and video and that kind of thing. I mean, the reality is that digital is the future. However, and I think COVID taught us that nobody wants to give up real world experiences and in-person things. At the end of the day, we're social beings. So I think that the biggest challenge for us is how do we create experiences that tick the digital box, but still create amazing real life experiences that make people want to capture content. So because everybody's got a phone, so these days everybody's a content creator. So and I'm talking purely from an operations and logistics perspective now. What we've started doing at events is no more selfie boxes, no more printed photographs, as an example, because we're needing people to talk about what we're doing on social. So we actually so our promotion staff now have to have an added level of skill. So we pay a little bit more, and we hire people who are great content creators, and we create real life experiences that people want to film or photograph, but we need it to be on their own device. We can't send them a crappy little selfie box photo. So our guys would then take the person's phone and say, right, how do you like to shoot? Do you use a filter? Or whatever the case is. And then we shoot that content for them specific to their requirements on their phone, on their device. Then we've got a 60% better chance of them using that content, using the hashtags to create talkability on digital platforms. And that's our strategy, just in one little section of what we do.
Okay, going with the flow and not getting left behind. That is good thinking.
Absolutely.
There. Yeah. Thanks, Karen. We've run out of time. That was Karen Poole, Services Director at Openfield Marketing. Thank you for your time and insights, which is very much appreciated. That's where we will leave it for now. And thank you for watching What I Do in Sport. on the SportX channel, which is hosted on TalkX TV. Until next time.